You're listening to the We Are Libertarians podcast network. Find all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com.
I'd be listening to the mainstream media and just be left frustrated on how they covered these stories. They would completely ignore facts just to promote their own agenda. I said, man, I could do a better job than these fools. I should start my own show. So I did. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Freedom Strips. I'm your host Keaton, and today I have a very special guest. My guest today is Larry Sharpe. Larry Sharpe rapidly rose to prominence during his run for governor of New York in 2018 as a Libertarian. Larry took full advantage of his rising popularity and made his way onto many different social media avenues and different media outlets such as TV, radio, podcasts all around the country. He was even showcasted on the Joe Rogan Experience, and he's recently just launched his new podcast called The Sharpe Way. So it is my pleasure to welcome Larry Sharpe onto the show. Larry, thank you so much for taking the time to come on.
No, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So I really wanted to bring you on to kind of get your perspective on some current events, some different talking points. I know we were talking earlier about potentially how the politically homeless, the silent majority in the middle seems to be growing as the two major parties seem to be separating further and further away from each other. But I do want to get a little bit of a background on you. So why don't you give the listeners who may not be familiar with you a light background on who is Larry Sharpe and why is he running for governor, or why did he run for governor of New York as a Libertarian? That's a tough ticket to run on.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And I think your initial opening is a valid concern, right? We have a bunch of people who don't feel like they're represented. And the reason is they're not. We have a bunch of people who are thinking that it's left versus right, and we only want the other guy to be bad, but we don't want to actually solve a problem or help anybody, right? This is a serious problem. And I saw it, obviously years ago, I saw it happening already. It's been happening for decades, but now it's coming to a point where, wow, do we want to talk to each other, right? And I saw that. In New York, for those who don't know, is literally the least free state in the union, as ranked by Cato. We beat California. Take that, California. So we are the least free state. And I thought, you know what? I want to leave. We lose in New York State over 150,000 people every single year just leave our state. Many of them go to where you are in Florida, right? Or they don't go to Florida. If they don't go there, they go to North Carolina, South Carolina, Arizona, Tennessee. There are so many New Yorkers moving to the Carolinas that they have a name for them. They call them halfbacks. They move to Florida and halfway back.
Oh, okay, nice. I was
they
wondering where
call
that
them
was
halfbacks. Yes, that's how many of us leave. And I was considering leaving too. Literally, for what I do at my day job, I'm a consultant for large businesses. So I need to have a large city for me to make any money. It's one of the reasons why I live in New York City, right? Big city, lots of big companies. Makes sense. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to go. So I looked at North Carolina. Right, I looked at Charlotte, and as I went to Charlotte to look at Charlotte to see maybe this is a place to live, I realized I could sell my house here in Queens and buy a mansion in North Carolina.
Yeah, no kidding.
And pay less taxes. I mean, just insane.
Right.
So I got angry, and I thought, why is my state so bad? I'm going to run. And that's one of the reasons why I ran for governor of New York, to make change, to get my ideas out there, to show people that, look, people talk that about the battleground states, or your state, Florida, or Pennsylvania, or Ohio. They're not. That's not true. Those are battleground states if you simply want to keep swapping left and right to control us. But if you actually want to stop government infringement, if you actually want to stop the state from taking more and more control over us, the battleground states are California and New York. This is where they're pushing it to the best ability. The rest of the country follows us.
Yeah.
They test how far they can go in our states and then start pushing that in every other state. We're the battleground states, right? I'm the front line. AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is my congressperson.
In your district.
That's correct. My congressperson.
Oh,
yes.
Boy, Larry.
Literally. And not just, that's one side. The other side, Trump is from my county, Queens.
Yeah.
So I'm in the belly of the beast.
Wow.
I am the front line. I'm the one, the vanguard, not the people in Pennsylvania, Florida, Ohio. It's me. I'm the one. We're the people doing this, right?
Right.
And my point being is, look, am I going to win in New York? I hope. but I don't have to win. All I have to do is make impact. If I make impact in New York, we can win in other states. If we can win in New York, we can win anywhere.
Oh, no
if
kidding.
we can change New York, we can change the entire nation. This is where we hold them, as in New York and California. California doesn't have me. New York does. So New York is where I fight. This is where we can win. It's one reason why I ran. Did I answer your question at least?
Yeah, you did. And you impact. You certainly made an impact. So, one of the things that I gave in my intro of you is you gave the Libertarian ballot access, the Libertarian Party ballot access for the first time. Now that's a monumental step there, right there. So
yes,
I mean, you're spreading the message. You're getting the word out to those in New York that are, boy, I mean, obviously the majority is blue, but I mean, you've got the Republican that runs every time. And just
remember here, look. In New York State, and this is common in other states too, right? I'll go the opposite, Oklahoma. Oklahoma's a very red state, right?
Right.
In New York being a blue state, there's no such thing as a blue or red state, actually. What there is, every state's red. The question is, do you have enough urban centers to turn your state blue? But if it's not actually blue state versus red state, it's urban versus rural.
Right.
Right. Rural New York is as red as Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And, the cities in Mississippi are as blue as New York, right? Mm-hmm. That's what we're looking at. We're looking at urban versus rural. That's what it really is. New York State, it's urban versus rural, not necessarily blue. There's a lot more urban. The largest city in the country, New York, is in our state. So obviously we have a whole bunch of blue.
Yeah.
And that's natural. But what I was trying to get at is even the people in New York, they don't like Democrats either. They simply vote Democrat because they don't like Republicans. Mm-hmm. But they don't like their own people. They just don't like Republicans. And the last 30 years, 40 years, we've been splitting ourselves so much that Democrats simply will not vote for Republican. Republicans will simply not vote for a Democrat. The Libertarian Party says, hey, guess what? You can vote for us. We're not red or blue. We're gold. It gives them an option that isn't the enemy, is what they see, right?
Right.
This has been happening for decades. If you look at it now, this is a big problem. 2020 is going to be a big issue. And this has been happening for a while, right? Since basically about Nixon, in that era, after the impeachment or the almost impeachment of Nixon, the parties have been fraying tremendously since the Nixon era, right? Since that had been really fraying. But up until the second term of Obama, every president, Obama, his first term, Bush before him, Clinton before him, Bush before him, Reagan, all of them, they always said things like, I'm the president for everybody, there's one America. They all talk that way. But since second term of Obama, nope. Obama was like, my people, and Trump doubled down, my people.
Right.
They only care about their side, not the other. That's become obvious these last 6 to 8 years. What does that mean? Here's the biggest issue. In 2020, think about what happens with our nation if Trump wins. The left is going to say, it was the Russians, he's illegitimate. Of course. What happens if the Democrat wins? In this case, say it's Biden as an example. Biden wins. What's the right going to say? Oh, it was a deep state. It was fixed. No
right.
matter what, our president, whoever that person is, half of our country is going to believe that that president is illegitimate. That's a problem.
Yeah, a big one.
What is the only answer? A third party. The biggest thing the Libertarian Party did in New York State by becoming legitimate was it got people who were unhappy with the left and the right to change parties, to believe that we were real and viable and change parties. And I just don't mean the voters. I mean the voters, obviously, but I also mean the candidates. We have 62 counties in New York. Prior to me running, we only had an organization in about 18 of those 62 counties. Now we have over 20. We're working on 40. We now have a Libertarian running in New York State this year in over half of our counties.
Really?
That didn't exist last. It's correct.
Wow.
Yes, over half counties is Libertarian actually running as a Libertarian in at least half of our counties. That didn't exist last year. And most of those people, sadly to mine, they are Republicans and Democrats who said, I'm done. I'm taking Libertarian line. I don't want my line. I'm taking Libertarian line. Because now it's viable. It wasn't viable for.
Right.
Lots of people who feel Libertarian won't run Libertarian because they think they can't win.
Right. They'll run
So why
Republican.
bother running so I can lose?
Yeah.
Yes, they run Republican or Democrat. Right? They run the opposite. And I mean by this, in a blue state like New York, the Libertarian Party tends to lean right. In a red state like Oklahoma, the Libertarian Party tends to lean left.
Yeah.
What's the reason? Because those are the people who are being oppressed.
Right.
Libertarian Party says, we'll leave you alone. Come to us, we'll leave you alone. We don't have to agree with what you're doing. We'll just leave you alone.
Yeah. We're just not going to force you. We're just not going to force you to do it.
Absolutely. If you're a Republican or conservative in New York State, all you want to be is left alone. You're not going to run the state. You're not going to be in charge. All you want to be is left alone. If you're a Democrat or a liberal in Oklahoma, you're not going to run the state. You know that. You just want to be left alone. So, Libertarian Party, here we are. We're happy to leave you alone. No worries. So I think that's what's been happening in New York State. It's a advantage. The other issue about the Libertarian Party in this case is the reason why anyone should support it is because it becomes a referee, right? It becomes, look, Democrats are supposed to be about civil liberties. They're not, but they're supposed to be. And right now they don't have to be because they just go, I'm better than Republican. That's all they say. And if you're a Democrat or you lean left, you go, yeah, you're better than a Republican. You vote Democrat, even if you hate your Democrat. Even if Democrats are socialists, you vote anyway because you don't like Republicans. You don't like the right.
Right.
The right, same thing. The Republicans are supposed to be about small business and lower taxes and smaller government. They're not. They're supposed to be.
Right.
And so, well, you're a Republican. What do? You just go, God, I hate Democrats. You vote Republican. But when there's a libertarian there, you have an actual option, actual choice. It will force Democrats to be better Democrats and Republicans to be better Republicans. That's the glory of having that powerful third party.
Boy, that's a great one right there. And I'm glad you brought up 2020 because this was one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was, with both sides moving further and further away from their founding principles. Like you said, the left supposed to be for civil liberties. The right's supposed to be for limiting government, limiting restrictions on business. But you have both parties condemning ones on each side that want to reach across the aisle. So one of the ones I wanted to talk to you about was such as the candidate on the Democratic side, Tulsi Gabbard. She's been ousted from the next debate. She hasn't reached her goal. But if you look at the social media against her, and even like the corporate media as well, MSNBC, CNN, boy, they tear into Tulsi Gabbard.
All the time.
But they side for the big establishment candidates like the Bidens, the Harrises. But you also see it on the right with the most latest example with Justin Amash going after, calling out Donald Trump for his hypocrisies and even talking about impeachment for obstruction of justice. Now, I think he's got a legitimate case there. It can be questioned. It's been questioned on, should you be concentrating on that investigation, with the craziness that it was. But look, you've got it on both sides with the right condemning Justin Amash, which I think is silly. Look, this is a guy who he was in the Republican Party. He called out the Republican Party for its hypocrisies, and now he's been forced out of the party, essentially. Same thing with Tulsi Gabbard, man. She's been trying to reach across the aisle, and you look at the establishment go after her. So you see this middle start to grow and grow and grow and grow. And I think the Libertarian Party has a real opportunity to gain some ground going into 2020 and into further elections more and more. I mean, in your case, you obviously see tremendous ground gained in New York. I mean, in New York, of all places. That's
what I'm saying. That's my whole point, right? This is the front line. If we could just make a dent here, we could win in Wyoming. We could win in South Dakota, right? Just by showing people how you can make a dent in New York. Of course I want to win, but I don't have to. I just have to make an impact so others can see and jump on board, and you're seeing it already. People are taking my example and they're running with it, which is what I want. Now, let me cover everything you kind of talked about. The first piece is, yes, the reason why this is happening with Tulsi and happening with Justin is because we don't actually have two political parties anymore. What we have is two tribes. And I mean that literally. Two tribes. It's not about principle. It's not about what they stand for. It's about the current warlord on top of the tribe. That's what it's about. Now, for some of your listeners who may have some gray hair like me, you may remember the old days, right? And think about it if you could, for those of you who are old enough to listen, or those of you who just know some history, think about a Carter Democrat versus a Clinton Democrat versus a Obama Democrat. And then think about a Reagan Republican versus a Bush Republican versus a Trump Republican. They're different Republicans and different Democrats, right?
Yeah.
A Carter Democrat was anti-war, right?
Mm-hmm.
A Clinton Democrat, not so much.
Right.
Right? Way different. Clinton was bombing all day long. Carter wasn't.
Yes.
Different. A Reagan Republican versus a Trump Republican, night and day. They're different Republicans, right? Each one is a different Republican,
Mm-hmm.
right? Even when Clinton wanted to fix healthcare, Clinton wasn't Medicaid for all healthcare. Now Democrats are Medicaid for all, right?
Right.
So it's a whole, they've all changed. Why? Because the warlord atop changed. I'll go one step further. The wall. Now you got Republicans want to build the wall. Democrats say it's too expensive. Go back 10 years ago. It was Democrats who wanted to build the wall and Republicans who said it was too expensive, right?
Yeah.
So it isn't about the policy. It is about the warlord, which is why the warlord sets what the policy is because of his or her will. That's it. And so when you go against the warlord, which Tulsi does, which Justin does, you are by default no longer part of the tribe. We have to kick you out. The reason why Libertarian Party is so amazing is it's based upon principle. I could call myself the king of libertarians if I want to. I'd be laughed out the door, right? It's not going to happen. I can call myself whatever I want. They're going to laugh at me. We're built upon principles. It's why we fight so much. We fight. Libertarians fight all the time.
I've noticed that.
Yes, because just because Larry Sharpe says so doesn't mean it matters. Doesn't mean it's real. Doesn't mean it's the rules. It means that's Larry Sharpe's opinion. But we have principles. And I measure what Larry says, not against how much I love Larry. I hope you all love me. But that isn't what you measure it against. You measure it against, does it match our principles or not? And if it doesn't, I can fight him. If it does, I'll shut up and let him do his thing. That's how we look at it. It's a different way of looking at it. So that's the reason why I think they're being thrown out. But I got to tell you, when I look at people like Justin or Tulsi, I want to bring them aboard. And a lot of people in the Libertarian Party are against them. They're like, don't bring them. They're the Democrats, they're Republicans. If you've noticed my style has been the same for the entire thing. I want to bring everybody I possibly can aboard. I know they're not going to be perfect libertarians. They're not. Tulsi's not a perfect libertarian. I got that. I'm not going to fool myself and say that. But she's the best Democrats got.
Yeah.
And I will take her now, and we'll see what we can do, and we'll work on her getting her better. I'm happy to have her aboard. I'm happy to have Justin Amashi aboard. Come on aboard. We'll let them all come over, right? I'll take Lincoln Chafee. Come aboard. I'll take Howard Schultz. Come on aboard. If you want to start talking to me, I'm going to talk back. I want to listen. I want everybody to come aboard to the best of their ability because I can't turn this country around if I can't talk to Americans.
Yeah.
We have to be able to talk to the left, talk to the right, talk to the center, show them that we have actual answers, and bring them to saying yes to us. The idea of constant fighting is not a good idea. It's not the way for us to heal our wounds. The glory of our movement is you don't have to convert to be a libertarian. You can be as liberal or as conservative as you want to be. Just stop forcing your way on others. Let people be who they want to be, and you're one of us. It's literally that simple.
Boy, Larry, I think you hit the nail on the head there with the central symptom of this whole political separation in the United States is a lack of discourse. There's a lack of talking. Nobody wants to talk to each other. And if they do talk to each other, they're yelling at each other. They're not actually talking with one another. And I think I talked with Hody Johns or maybe it was Brian Nichols about this on a later episode. But that lack of discourse is just fueling the fire. And one of the recent recent debates that you really see this flame being fueled on is with the gun debate issue. And I did want to ask you about, since you are in New York, and red flag laws have been at the top of the news cycle recently. New York did just enact their red flag laws.
As I told you,
Captain Cuomo,
guys.
Captain Cuomo just
going. The beginning.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
they try it here. If it works here, it's coming soon to your state.
Yeah. Well, it's a scary thing. I mean, I can't help but see another assault weapons ban or something of the sort on the horizon as things progress and move forward, especially with these new red flag laws. And you even see the Republicans starting to support these as well. Dan Crenshaw and Donald Trump has vowed support for it as well. So it's really something that I have several friends that are Republicans and lean conservative. And even they're starting to kind of raise their eyebrow a little bit, being like, well, wait a minute. I've let you get away with some of this stuff that Republicans aren't supposed to do. But now you're starting to tread in territory with these red flag laws where, I mean, you're starting to stomp all over due process in the Second Amendment. So
absolutely.
Where do you see
in New York State, there's not a Second Amendment. It's a second suggestion. That's how New York State. So yes, but the funny thing is when I bring up red flag laws and when I bring up the Second Amendment period, because I live in New York State, I've learned to not bring up the constitutionality of it because New Yorkers don't care. New Yorkers want to actually get rid of the Second Amendment. Literally, they would like to abolish it. I'm not joking. That's what they want to do. So I don't bring up that aspect. And gun lovers always do it. Shall not infringe. New Yorkers don't care.
Yeah.
It's constitutional. New Yorkers don't care. That argument has not worked in decades. I don't bring it up. I tell you what I bring up. Red flag laws create a secret state police. That's what they do.
Yeah.
They create a secret state police. Right now in New York, prior to red flag laws, we have what was called the SAFE Act. Some people in non-New Yorkers may not know what that was, but that was another gun safety law that was put in 2013. What that did is that made all of our medical community by law have to report any issues whatsoever that may be mental or medical at all to the state immediately by law. So this is what happened. It's true stories. Guy gets hit by a car. Guy's in a car accident. They bring him to the emergency room. He's in tremendous pain. He just got in a car accident. The nurse says, "How are you feeling?" He goes, "Oh, I feel so bad. I want to die." She writes suicidal, loses firearms.
Oh.
Because she has to report that by law. So she's afraid. So she reports everything versus just telling people, hey, if some guy's a nut, say something. If some guy's violent, say something. But Larry, that won't work. It works in New York City with our terror issues. If you ever come to New York City, you will see everywhere. If you see something, say something.
Mm-hmm.
For terrorist issues, you see it all the time. And guess what people do in New York City? If they see something, they say something. That's exactly how we've literally stopped multiple attempts at terrorism in New York City.
Yeah.
People say something. Mm-hmm. There's no law. You don't have to report your neighbor. It's not required. Literally, the Times Square bomber was reported by, guy was a Muslim. He was reported by a fellow Muslim. I think he owned a hot dog stand or something like that. He's like, no, I'm here legally. I like America. You're not messing my deal up. I'm reporting you. And he did, and the cops got him. If you see something, say something. The problem is a red flag law assumes that people are bad and stupid and evil and won't report things if they see things. It's proven that we will. Even 9/11, people reported these guys learning how to fly the plane, not how to land them. People report. Americans do it. We don't require a law. The assumption is, well, without red flag laws, why would they report? It's already happening. In fact, just last month, there were 3 different shootings stopped in 3 different states. I think it was Florida, Ohio, Connecticut. I think it was those 3 states. Only 2 of those states have red flag laws. 1 didn't.
Yeah.
The laws weren't required, and people still did it. Once you make it a requirement, now people start going on lists. Now we start reporting our neighbors. This is the East German Stasi or the Russian KGB. That's what starts happening. USSR comes back. The newest red flag laws in New York now make teachers do it also. So medical community and teachers now are part of a New York State Secret State Police reporting on people, to your point, with no due process. But Larry, you want these people to shoot things up? Of course I don't. All I want is, if your son is talking online about shooting the school up, report them. Let the cops come and do due process.
Right.
They do due process. I'm okay. I don't mind the cops seizing firearms from somebody who wants to kill someone. I'm actually okay with that. But that person gets due process. They have to have evidence. right? There's something there. This guy's trying to do something bad. Okay. But because I don't like my neighbor, and the worst part I bring up is these laws affect veterans more than anybody else, because veterans are more apt to have firearms and they're more likely to have things like PTSD and TBI. I'm a vet. I love my veterans. They're more apt to have this. So guess what happens? They decide to not get help.
Right.
Because we're a community. And we tell others. We tell each other, dude, you can't go get help, man, because they take your guns. What? Take my guns? I'm not getting help. You know, I have problems like I've got to take my vet brother has to give his guns to his other friend and say, hey, hold my guns. Can you just hold my guns? I don't feel safe. What does he mean? He means last night I put one of them in my mouth and I didn't pull the trigger. Yeah. And I don't want to do it again tonight. So hold my guns for me. That's what we're down to. So these red flag laws create secret state police, put innocent people away, get rid of due process, and affect our veterans worse than ever, and are unnecessary. Yeah. Because we do it anyway. That's what I talk about. And you see that a lot of people, these are people on the left. I live in New York City. We are the most anti-gun city in the country, right? We are all about getting rid of Second Amendment. We do not want it at all. Yeah. And New York City friends of mine go, you know, Larry, you're right. If I can get New York City left to go, Larry, you're right, we can change the country. That's my point. That's how we do it. Through conversation, not insults, not constitution. They don't care. Right. It's about look at what society we're creating with these red flags. Look at who we're hurting with these red flag laws. And when I talk about the city, New York City, for those of you who don't know, it's a very diverse city, the most diverse city in our country. In fact, Queens County is the most diverse county in the nation. When you have a lot of poor immigrant communities in New York City. So when someone gets mugged or beaten up or robbed, it's almost always the same thing. It is a poor old person of color, either old woman or old man. Right. So you might say, okay, great, old woman, old man. That's terrible. It is. How can you stop that? How can you fix that? I have an idea. How about one of those old women or old man or single mom with 2 kids has a firearm? A firearm in those communities is literally an equalizer. Yeah. The reason why that thug beats up an old man or old woman or young woman with 2 kids is because he can. Right. He's not messing with some young strapping 20-something male because that guy might beat his ass. Right. He's not doing that, right? That might happen. Yeah. He's not doing that. Let one elderly man or woman draw down on a thug one time. Yeah. That'll make the news, change everything. What about all the domestic violence that we have now, right? Mm-hmm. You know, a woman is murdered by her lover every day in America. You know what most of those people have? They have an order of protection, which, by the way, is not magic. It's just a piece of paper. Right. It just makes sure that when the man kills the woman, that he'll do more time in prison when he's caught. It doesn't protect her. You know what does protect her? A firearm. Yeah. It is an equalizer. I speak about the Second Amendment in these terms, human terms, how it affects the poor, how it affects women, how it affects our veterans, how it creates a secret state police. Mm-hmm. This is what turns people. This is why I speak this way about it. Yeah. And to be clear, I live in New York City. I don't own a firearm. Really? You don't own a firearm in New York? How could I? I live in New York City. I go to jail. Yeah, I know it's very difficult. I don't know actually the processes of. I know it's extremely difficult to get one. Yeah, it's impossible. So This is the glory of the libertarian movement. Many of us, we support issues that don't affect us because we don't care about whether it affects us or not. What we care about is your rights. Your rights matter, and your Second Amendment rights matter. Whether I own a firearm or not is irrelevant. Your rights matter. And that's why I preach about this. Yeah, this is one of the things too that I thought was so interesting, and you know, I've talked about on my show that this gun debate several times, and it seems to me like most people believe, even the people on the left believe that they're anti-gun. They don't like guns. Well, they're not actually anti-guns. They actually like the guns. They just like them in the hands of the government and the local police, right? So yes. They are not anti-gun. They're just pro guns in the government's hands. So they have this kind of religious
They have this religious belief that the government can do no wrong and individuals can do wrong, but the government is made up of individuals who are human and they are prone to evil acts as well. So it's just kind of like this religious belief that the government can do no wrong. So they're not actually anti-gun. I've brought this up several times in my show. I just think that's an interesting point. Do you have anything to bring up on that?
Very often I will, when I'm in New York City, I'll go to a college and I'll speak in a college, or I'll speak at an event, and I'll ask this question. I'll say, how many people in this room own a gun, own a firearm? And I ask them to raise their hands, and almost no hands go up. Right? Almost no hands go up. It's New York City. Almost no hands go up. Right? And I go, you all do. And they go, what? So yeah, we all own guns. Right now, the cops are holding them for us.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Because when you have a problem, what do? You call a 911 and your guns come.
Yeah. And then you got to wait 10 minutes for them to show up.
Your guns come.
Yeah.
Right? You press 911 and your guns show up. They're your guns. You're paying tax on them. You bought them.
Sure.
They're yours.
Many times over.
Yes, you bought them many times over. Just you're letting the cops hold them.
Right.
It's fine. So you call 911 and your guns come.
Yeah.
So how can you say you're anti-gun?
Exactly.
You own guns. You just wait for now look, you might say, but Larry, sure, that makes sense. But the cops have the gun. Okay, great. What happens if you live in a more rural county where when you call the cop, not cops, the cop, because in your rural county, there's only one. And if he's eating dinner, he's not going to pick up his phone. So the cop's going to take an hour to get to you. You're going to wait for your guns for an hour? Like, yeah. So why are you so anti-gun?
Right.
If you're in New York City, the cops will probably come pretty fast. This is a general rule. If you're in a bad neighborhood, no, they won't. But if you're in a decent neighborhood, they'll come pretty fast. But again, this is my point. Maybe you believe you live in a safe neighborhood. Maybe you don't want to have a gun. No worries. Again, we're libertarians. I don't want you to have a gun. I want you to be able to have a gun if you choose to have one. Second Amendment is not a second requirement. It's a right. If you want one, you should have one. If you don't, that's fine too. You don't have to. I don't need everyone to be armed. I need you to be able to be armed. In my example of the old person who has the gun, the elderly person who has a gun, I don't need every old person to have a gun. But if they might have one, that might change a thug's mind.
Absolutely. Well, that's a great point there, Larry.
Yes. So let other people have firearms. If you don't want to have one, don't. No one's forcing you. Just stop forcing your view on others.
So the next thing I wanted to ask you, Larry, was about the rise of this democratic socialism in America. Mm-hmm. You see the Bernie Sanders really gaining popularity, the Elizabeth Warren's gaining popularity. I spoke to Brian Nichols about this on a past show, but I wanted to get your thoughts on this because it's my view that the negative views and connotations towards capitalism from these Bernie supporters are kind of misplaced. I believe most of them have a problem with cronyism that they believe is capitalism. I don't know as if the United States has ever had a true, pure test of capitalism before, certainly not in our lifetime. But how do we as libertarians or those who find themselves in the middle effectively speak to those on the democratic socialist side to kind of have them come to the realization that capitalism isn't their enemy and socialism isn't really what they want?
Well, first, stop using the phrase capitalism. Just stop using it. I don't use it. Yeah. Capitalism has a bad connotation. It's not going to change. Mm-hmm. So I don't use the phrase. And libertarians are hardcore. But capitalism is great. Nobody cares. They don't like it. It's irrelevant. Emotions matter, right? And the problem is you will find very often that many libertarians, or conservatives too, but libertarians also will often have the idea that, feelings don't matter. What's that saying? Facts don't care about your feelings.
Yeah, that's the Ben Shapiro line. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a terrible idea. That is a horrible concept. Yeah. Feelings matter tremendously. Feelings ignore facts. Feelings adjust facts. Feelings make up facts from thin air. Yeah. Humans are about feelings. You have to care about feelings. If you don't, you just don't understand humans.
Yeah, you have to understand both sides. Yeah.
You have to understand feelings, period. Right? Yeah. You just have to. So the first thing I would say is the connotation of capitalism is a bad one, so I don't use it. In fact, you never even hear me use the phrase free market. Mm. Well, I'll use all of this consumer driven.
Okay.
So they've already stolen our words, and we're trying to fight to take them back. It's a battle we can't win. I don't want to fight a battle I can't win. So I can't win that battle. I'm not going to win it. Keep my words. You got them. I'll get new words. So I just go get new words. So the first thing is stop using that. I don't use it. You've never heard me say it. I don't use those phrases ever. They fail. That's the first step. Step number 2 is empathy. Empathy is when we don't have. We're bad at it. We go, socialism is bad, never worked. We have facts. Here's something to remember. If you're a millennial, I don't know how old you are, but if you're 30 or under, imagine if you are. If you're not, anyone listening, if you're 30 or under, you'll get it. If you're not, try to pretend. If you're 30 or under, it means the odds are very high that as a generation, not as an individual, I don't know of you specifically, but as a generation, you were told that you were awesome because you were born. You were given a bunch. You have a closet full of participation trophies, which is I showed up, therefore I'm great. You've been told the entire life. You've also been told that if you just graduate high school and then go to a great college, there'll be an amazing job waiting for you, that you won't have to work hard. You'll be behind the computer. You'll make tons of money because that's how capitalism works, and you'll be great. Well, if you're about 30 or under, you get out of college or high school, 2009, 11, 14, 16, 18. What was waiting for you? Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. A system that was destroyed, and the media went out of its way to say it was destroyed because of capitalism.
Right, because of free
and
markets.
It was saved. Yes, correct. And it was saved because of government intervention. That is what you were told the entire time.
Right.
So why would you believe that? Not just that. You feel betrayed. You feel lied to. You look around you. Most of the people in your world, your generation, don't own much. There's not much ownership. If you live in a city, you have at least 3 roommates, if not 4 or 5, and you struggle. If you live not in a city, you live with family because you can't afford to buy your own home. That's what you see everywhere.
Yeah.
And not just that, you live heavily on social media. And in social media, what do you see? You see everyone's avatar. And that avatar is always having an amazing time.
Right, yeah.
But you're not. Life is clearly not fair. You were lied to. You don't see socialism as stealing money. You see socialism as righting a wrong. You were defrauded. You were lied to. The government lied to you. You rich people lied to you. Society and baby boomers, they all lied to me. I deserve this. That's how you see it. Now, I'm not saying that's correct. I'm saying that makes them not bad people. That makes them human beings who have a certain outlook on life.
Right.
We have to accept that as how they feel and then talk to them accepting that is true. But if we instead go, damn millennials, lazy, want everything for free, if we do that, we're going to lose. All they do is double down and dig in, and we lose. But Larry, they're socialists. Yes, socialists who are voting our rights away every single year.
Yep.
We have to turn them with communication. We can't just yell at them. It doesn't work. And for those of you who are more conservative, I have some bad news for you. The country is going left.
Mm-hmm.
Any way you look at it, it's going left. They're not getting smaller, they're getting bigger. Why? The biggest reason is urbanization. More and more people are moving to cities. And this all comes back from 2008. 2008, there was really no real recovery outside of cities. 20 cities in America are responsible for about 80% of all new jobs. Outside of cities, almost no recovery. So everyone's rushing to cities. When
Right.
you go to cities, you become more left. Why? Because we live on top of each other. We have mixed cultures. Because we are transient. Because we're all sharing everything. We don't have family with us. So there's no cultural overarching thing that says what's right and what's wrong. So we cry for a referee. What's the easiest referee? Government.
Mm-hmm.
So we ask for more government. So when you move to cities, you become more left. Think about this. In Manhattan, 1 square mile of Manhattan, 60,000 people. That's
Whew.
more than most counties.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes, that's more than most. I mean, 1 square mile in Manhattan. In fact, in some parts of New York City, a UPS truck driver, his entire route is one building.
Wow.
That's how many people in a building. His entire route is one building.
Whew.
That's how big, that's how much we live on top of each other. So that's my point, right? When you have that's happening, how do we fix that? Not through yelling and screaming. They just dig in deeper. It's through conversation, showing them a better way, expressing, hey, I get it. You feel cheated. Your way just isn't the right way. There's a better way. We can make this happen. I can show you ways to have more ownership, show you ways to be more entrepreneurial, show you ways to have more success in your life, show you ways to give you some more freedom to where you can still get what you want without socialism. If we don't show them that, we lose. And the key piece here is to focus on outcomes. Do we want the same outcome? And the funny part is, most Americans actually want the same outcome. The question is, how do we get there? The left tends to think the only way is through government and through socialism. If we show them there are other ways, they will come our way. And I use this in the way of Libertarian Party, right? The Libertarian Party. It is easier for us, and we get people faster usually from the right. But they go back fast also. They come, it's not right enough, they go back.
Yeah.
The left, it's harder for us to get people. But when we get people from the left, man, do they stay, and they are some of our best activists.
Really? From the left, you find that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. We don't get them as fast from the left. But when they turn, oh my God.
They're passionate
they
people.
Are like, yes.
Yeah.
Without question. Yes. They are the ones we want.
Yeah.
I want turn people from the left as much as I can get. I want them because when they come, oh my God, they're our best advocate. I mean, the rights are good too. I'm not trying to put the right away. We just get more of them faster from the right, right?
Sure.
So I want them all. Bring them all to us. We can turn them all.
Well, that's great. And I think that's if I were to guess, that's one of the reasons why you started the Sharpe Way and your new media outlet. So tell the listeners a little bit about what
SharpeWay.com, Sharpe Way Twitter, Sharpe Way Instagram, the Sharpe Way Facebook page, Sharpe Way YouTube page. We got it all. Absolutely. Monday nights live, 2 hours, 8 to 10. It's a call-in show. You call in, talk to me and the guest. You can imagine it's like a smaller version of Joe Rogan with phone calls. That's what it is. Every third or fourth show, I do it just me and callers. And in between, I do guests. In fact, my first guest was Howie Hawkins, the open socialist Green Party presidential candidate.
Really?
And what happened? Yes, I had a conversation with him. I found some common ground. We talked. I didn't yell at him. I didn't debate. I didn't argue. We talked. Callers called and asked him serious questions like, how can you accept this part of socialism? And he answered. He was human. We were human. I hope some of his people saw how good we were and stay with us. I hope some of our people saw he's human and can talk to him. We have to have more conversations. Arguing and debating is nice, but it just creates winners and losers. Doesn't change anybody's mind. Conversation changes minds. So yes, the Sharpe Way is all about recruiting. It's all about new people coming in. You're not going to see a lot of hardcore libertarians on the Sharpe Way. You're going to see left and right. You're going to see people who aren't normal. That's what I want. I want this to be a way of bringing people to the movement. That's the goal of the Sharpe Way.
Well, I think
mutual respect, good conversations.
Yeah, I think that people are starved for good conversations. They really are. The media does not provide good, honest, long-form conversation, and I'm really excited about your new avenue, the Sharpe Way. I'll definitely be tuning in myself, as well as the listeners. Go out, help Larry Sharpe out. Go and subscribe to his new podcast. Follow him on Twitter. Follow him on Instagram. He's on all the different outlets. Larry Sharpe, I'm going to end it here. Thank you again for coming on, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Talk to you soon.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, everybody, for taking a listen to another episode of Freedom Strips. Please be sure to give Larry Sharpe a follow. Go check him out on The Sharpe Way, anywhere you can find podcasts. And we'll see you on the next episode of Freedom Strips.